powerful evening. Look, you have some people that say that Donald Trump, despite the fact that he was the most pro-Israel president ever, heck, it's actually not just Israel, by the way. I think Donald Trump was actually one of the most pro-Jewish presidents ever. In fact, I wrote an op-ed for the New York Post just before the 2020 election saying exactly this. In my mind, he's the most philo-Semitic pro-Jewish president, at least since Abraham Lincoln, maybe going back as far as George Washington himself. Wow. I mean, he actually had a little known underappreciated executive order that he promulgated in December 2019, where for the first time a president interpreted Title VI of the Civil Rights Act to protect Jewish students on campus against anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist discrimination. It would probably be a good thing, frankly, if we were to have that on the books today, I think you might say. Donald Trump actually did that. And people say, oh, despite this, he's like a crypto fascist, he's a Nazi sympathizer. His daughter, Ivanka Trump, converted to Orthodox Judaism. Donald Trump has Jewish grandchildren. I mean, when he's saying that he will never let this happen to the Jewish people and the Jewish state, it's coming not just from a geostrategic place. It's actually very personal for him. So it was really just a great event, Carl, and I was just thrilled to be there. I Trump throughout last night.
Let me have you react to this video. This is video clip number 5. Here, Gabe, Trump pledges to support Israel's war on terror. Let's go ahead and roll that.
As you know, Hamas has now been severely degraded, and Hezbollah has recently been dealt very, very powerful, crippling blows. With strength and the right leadership, the dawn of a new, more harmonious Middle East is finally within our reach. It's finally within our reach. But you have no idea the role that the United States has to play in order to get that ball over the goal line. We have to get it into the end zone. And if it's not the United States, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We have to be able to get it done and get it done properly and get back to a wonderful, beautiful way of life. You have to be able to do it. You have to finish what you began, and you have to finish it quickly. So here is my commitment to you on the solemn date. I will not allow the Jewish state to be threatened with destruction. I will not allow another Holocaust of the Jewish people. I will not allow a jihad to be waged on America or our allies. And I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror, and it has to win it fast. No matter what happens, it has to go fast. Thank you.
So a statement and a question. To my chagrin, I saw some reaction even from people on the right. They were like, oh, Trump lost me as a result of that particular statement, which is absolutely disgusting to me. And it really makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder about some of the people that even claim to be on the right that are on X, quite frankly. And what do you say to the people that try and obviously I want your response to that clip too, but what do you say in response to the people that try to claim that our relationship with or the fight with Israel against Hamas or Hezbollah is the same thing as Russia and Ukraine supporting these forever wars and so on, et cetera? I don't see them as the same. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I've actually been a day one skeptic of U.S. involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war. I've written many columns on this. I've done my own show episodes on this. I've thought that U.S. statesmanship should have been pressing for a ceasefire and a viable off-ramp for Putin and Zelensky, literally going back as far as 2.5 years ago. I've been beating this drum for a long time. Look, Carl, when it comes to foreign policy, I am a sober, hard-headed, national interest-centric realist. I very much reject personally both sides. I reject doctrinaire isolationism just as I reject doctrinaire neoconservatism. And I think that there is this misconception in the American public that the U.S.-Israel alliance is predicated upon this moralistic conception of a neoconservative foreign policy. First of all, that's just empirically not true. So the Bush administration was the real quintessential neoconservative presidential administration. They frankly weren't actually that pro-Israel. I actually went back and did a lot of the reading for the book that I'm currently finishing the manuscript for. You know, they considered pushing Israel to try to browbeat them into a two-state solution, one of the most frequently recurring leitmotifs of the entire Bush administration. Condoleezza Rice was literally trying to push the Israelis into this as the Bush administration was fading out of office. But more generally, Donald Trump was not a neoconservative. Donald Trump was and is an America First, national interest, hard-headed realist. And what he intuited was that it is in America's national interest to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel because their fight literally is our fight. Donald Trump is from New York City. He experienced 9/11. So did I. I was in 7th grade when 9/11 happened. I remember seeing the smoke from the Twin Towers. It was really kind of my personal come to adulthood moment. That fight on 9/11 is the exact same fight that Israelis faced during the Second Intifada, during the exploding buses and all of that horror back in the early 2000s. It's the exact same fight that they experienced against Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Iranian regime and so forth. Radical Islam, radical jihad, it doesn't matter what exact form it takes. It is trying to engulf all of us. And what Trump did, for instance, is he supported Israel, but also supported the more moderate Sunni Arab states, countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain. That's how we got the Abraham Accords, Carl. That's how we got transformative generational peace in the Middle East. And you know who was actually contained during the Trump administration? The Iranian regime. And that was partially true because Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had this maximum pressure campaign with sanctions. It was also partially true because our allies in the region, namely the Israelis, Emiratis, Bahrainis, and so forth, knew that they had basically a blank check from the U.S. to patrol and preserve the region like they want to prevent Iran from getting out of hand. As an America First realist, I actually think that America's number one geopolitical threat this century is China. And I actually would rather the U.S. strategically wind down its presence a little bit in the Middle East so as to better focus on the Indo-Pacific. Here's the key point. The key point, and Donald Trump intuited this, and a realist foreign policy intuits this, the way to do that is to embolden your allies in the region to basically patrol the region for themselves in a way that is in your interest. That's exactly what the Abraham Accords did, and that is exactly, I think, what a realist foreign policy would suggest. So these people that are kind of out there, and you see it, I see it, that are thumping their chest saying America first, screw Israel, screw the Jews there. It's coming from a very emotional and usually morally dark place, but they're also just not thinking strategically. If you actually want to wind down America's presence in the Middle East, it actually makes sense to embolden Israel and to make that alliance more powerful.
Yeah, man, great answer. We only have 50 seconds left, Josh. There are still 100 hostages left in Gaza. 4 of those happen to be American. And also Kamala Harris could be the next president of the United States. What would that mean for the people of Israel and, frankly, for the United States as well?
Yeah, look, real quick on our remaining time, I think Kamala Harris would be an unmitigated disaster. I mean, she's been trying to have it both sides, as we just discussed there. Deep down, she is deeply sympathetic to the so-called Palestinian cause. She says that those protesters have a point. Tim Walz has gone even further. He says that they are like the quintessence of justice. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's more or less what he says about these pro-jihadi little Robespierres running around campuses. I think they would be an unmitigated disaster for U.S.-Israel relations. Donald Trump, of course, would be tremendous for that.
All right. Josh Hammer, senior editor at Newsweek. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. We'll be back with more. You guys stay tuned.